Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now in today's video, we're taking a look at a multi-function axe from the people at Yeacool. Now before I get too far, I would like to say thank you to the people at Yeacool for providing these products that you're going to see today for review. Now when I was contacted about providing a review for this product, my mind kind of went a little bit back and forth on it. You know, for me, an item like this where it's a multifunction tool, kind of like a jack of all trades type of thing, it doesn't typically work for me, but I said, hey, you know what? I've had some real good luck lately trying out different products that I thought, quite honestly, maybe I wouldn't like. I did say, you know what? I think I'll give it a try. So at this point, I have to say my very first impression, and I'm going to start my review like this feels nice and heavy, good quality threads and just good feel in the hand, surprisingly stout, and appears to be very durable. So just off the get-go, my very first impression of this is very surprisingly good, and that has me optimistic. So where this is a multi-use product, I kind of suspect that it's going to do some things reasonably well, other things probably not, but the good news is right off the get-go, quality and overall construction-wise, this feels great. Now what I can tell you about this is, actually, do me a favor, stay tuned! So what I was about to say is what I can tell you about this is that right out of the box, it is not very sharp. Unfortunately, it is going to need a little bit of work to tune it up, and I'm okay with that. I understand it. Not too big of a deal. This axe actually does come with a diamond sharpener, so even though I have all kinds of different methods to sharpen my blades, things that have been proven and work very well for me, I'm actually going to use the product that is provided with this axe, and I think it'll be a good opportunity to take a quick test of this diamond sharpener to see how well it performs. Now, as I mentioned, this is a multi-function tool. However, at the heart of it, it is really basically an axe. So I think it's important for us to talk about some of the details. Take a look at this bit. It is not very sharp right out of the box, so I know I am going to need to do some work, but let's just take a real quick look at this so you can get some examples of what I'm talking about. So this axe head is made out of 3CR13 steel, which I could be wrong, but I believe is something roughly around a 420. So it should be a stainless steel, not a carbon steel. So that might be a little bit of a detriment just to the overall edge retention. And even at that, this is a hollow ground bit. So I'm not really thinking that the edge will have incredibly good edge retention. However, it should get quite sharp without too much difficulty. So I think in terms of overall general serviceability in the field and my ability now to get this razor sharp, it should definitely work. And you'll also notice that this axe head has a very nice pommel end, so kind of like a squared off hammer. So this would be excellent for general camp tasks, the ability to pound in stakes, hammer in sort of wood pegs or anything like that, or even crush rocks or different things that you need to. That is a nice strike surface. So I like the shape of that. I think it works pretty well. Gives you a good generous surface area to strike, and so overall I kind of like the shape of this axe head, and it looks to me if I can get it tuned up, it should perform overall pretty well. So let's just try some real basic carving here. If you look, I have this piece of pine, which I would hope would allow me to really just carve with ease, and you'll see here that the edge is just kind of sliding down the wood. So out of the box, it doesn't have a great bite, and in order for me to even get some curls, I really need to bear down. So just for the example, I'm going to grab another axe here and just give you a real quick side-by-side comparison. Now, just for the comparison here, I have my Gränsfors small forest axe, and getting in here, you'll see that just with ease, I mean barely even pushing, I'm able to take some good overall chunks of wood. And then if I really want to go fine and grab a real nice controlled angle on this, I'm able to just kind of run this down the wood and get some curls. Now obviously this would work a little better if I planed out the piece of pine here, but overall you can see that, you know, this axe definitely wants to take some good decent bite, some good decent curls without too much effort. And then once I really start kind of getting into it and hogging out the wood, it really does not struggle at all, and I'm, you know, not really putting too much in terms of overall effort. So maybe now I can plane this down just a bit, get myself a bit of a better edge, and then we'll try the Yeacool axe one last time. So now that I have a couple of good hard edges on here, let's see if I can get this Yeacool to strip down some feathers. And it really won't. I mean, I really need to bear in here, and that gets to be just a touch dangerous where I'm really leaning into this axe and applying a lot of pressure, and that's kind of when trouble happens. So you can see the overall sharpness of this right out of the box. It definitely needs work, and that's kind of a shame where it is that really sharp and steep hollow grind. The hollow grind should really give it a good quality carving edge, but it's just not. So I need to work on the secondary bevel quite a bit, and as I mentioned, I'm going to use the Yeacool diamond sharpener. Now taking a quick look at the diamond sharpener, this is a dual-sided sharpener. So this is the coarse side at a 400 grit, and then on this side, I'd call it more like a medium, which is a 600 grit. In fact, it's really, the 400 is probably more like a medium, and then the 600 like a medium fine. So overall, I'm hoping this has enough grit to really start to hone in on that edge and sharpen it down, maybe get a little bit of a burr, and then work the other side and clean it up, and then dial it in with the 600. And if that doesn't work, I do have other methods, but like I said, I just want to try the actual Yeacool product first. So I kind of suspect that this is a process that's going to take me a while, and I'm just going to start on camera, and then I'm going to go away for a while and just really work on this. Try to get a good quality overall edge on this axe. So you'll see I'm just going to kind of work the diamond edge. I typically hate diamond. I don't like using it. I don't like taking metal off of my blades, but where this is so dull, that is totally required. So anyway, like I mentioned, I'm just going to give this a go on the 400, flip it over, give it a 600 passer, and really see what I can do to tune this up. And it's going to take me a while, but I'll come back and I'll show you where I'm at with the progress. So at this point, I have touched up the edge. Basically, I used the Yeacool diamond sharpener and then gave it a real quick pass through my belt sander with the leather strop. So just to take a little bit of the sort of burr off the edge and just kind of hone and shine up that edge. And at this point, I do have a bit of an improvement. You can see here that I am able to kind of take some curls. Now, I have to admit, it's taking a lot more effort than I would hope. I'm still finding that I'm sort of bearing down. So what I believe is that the angle of the, call it secondary bevel, is quite steep. So not quite as refined as I would like, and it almost flares out and then comes back in. So it is quite steep. I think this could use serious reprofiling. So I'd probably have to kind of regrind this all together. But at this point, you know, I've done what I can using the tools as provided, and then just cheated a touch by using that Surge Sharp belt on my belt sander just to hone the edge. But anybody could have pretty much done that with a leather belt. So I feel like that's almost as good as I can do, as I mentioned, with the tools provided. So out of the box, not very sharp and a little bit difficult to get a good edge on this. So now that I've tried the Yeacool diamond sharpener and did not quite get the performance I was hoping to out of this axe, here I have my belt sander set up. with some sandpaper. I'm going to basically try to grind this down to a better angle, try to get a little more performance out of this, and hopefully that will do the trick in terms of my overall ability to do some carving with this axe. So if you look at this edge, I do feel as though it is vastly improved, and I'm wondering if it makes a difference now. So, I mean, you'll see it is pretty well evenly ground, no burrs, no dings, no problems with the edge, nice and honed, kind of reground it. So at this point, I really do hope it'll make a difference. So now just trying a little more of that carving. Oh yeah. There we go. Much better. My control is not that great, but wow. I mean, you can actually hear it biting now. So that is very encouraging. I mean, that really is taking some good quality bite now. So that made a huge difference, just getting that right grind geometry on here. I mean, that made just a world of difference. And actually, now that I feel it in my sort of with my finger here, I mean, yeah. I mean, this isn't perfect, but I mean, that at least is able to sort of carve and cut. So I feel like this is vastly improved. So that shows that this is a serviceable edge. The problem is, just out of the box, it has poor grind geometry. And the other thing that's tough is, unfortunately, this diamond sharpener, even though it does work, is going to be a ton of effort to try to get this edge reprofiled. So you kind of need some machinery, which, you know, obviously some of you might have, some of you might not. It would take you a long time to reprofile this edge with this diamond sharpener. You can certainly do it, but you're going to need to spend a long time with that 400 grit and then really work the 600, and then finally probably get a leather belt and strop it. So I guess my first suggestion just to the people at Yeacool is, you know, spend a little more time trying to get that edge profile worked in and a little more refined, so that this is a better serviceable and carving capable edge. Now, one of the key components to this axe is the fact that it is essentially a multi-tool, and you may have noticed that as I was sharpening this, the handle was shorter. Well, that's because all of these handle sections do come apart, and that was one of the first impressions that I had, was that these threads are actually quite nice. They're nice, and they're not too fine and they're not too coarse. It's I believe I would call that a fine thread ultimately, but they are well machined and thread together nice. Now you hear just a little bit of squeaking. That's to be expected. You could put just a touch of grease on there and it would totally take care of that. But the other aspect of these threads and the way these handles fit together is it is a gasketed connection, which makes it really firm and does not have a tendency for the two joints to kind of slip apart, which works very well. And as I took that apart, you see that I expose a knife. Now, this is one of the key features to this, the fact that there is a knife built into the handle. So at this point, kind of going through the knife, it is not sharp at all to the touch. I mean, basically not very sharp at all. And then a little bit of a saw back, which also is not very sharp. So in a similar fashion, if I was going to get in here and start to do some work right away, I find that even with the soft pine, I'm doing a little bit better than with the axe. I can kind of take a little bit of shavings here, but I am also bearing down harder than I would like. I guess this is kind of doing some work, and overall could really, in a pinch, sort of do what you need it to. However, I think I could do a lot better. So like the axe head, I do want to do some work. Now at this point, I am not going to be using the diamond sharpener that was provided. I'm going to use the methods that I know to get this nice and sharp. So I'm going to work on the edge using my Work Sharp field sharpener, get a good edge on this, and then we'll see how the knife ultimately performs. So at this point, I mean, I've touched up the blade. It really, for the most part, seems to slice reasonably well. I mean, I don't have it like super mega sharp, but I mean, you see how it's slicing. So at this point, I should be able to get some decent curls on this wood. It is slightly improved, but I am also bearing down awfully hard, and it is not intuitive to finding that grind geometry and that grind angle. And you can see where I'm pushing down, it just becomes a little bit unsafe. So again, as I mentioned, let me get another knife real quick just to kind of see how it reacts to the wood. So not that this is perfect, but here I have my Kizlar Supreme Nicky. This is a small little fixed blade, EDC size blade, D2 tool steel. It is maybe just a touch hollow ground, so kind of similar in a way, but just a little bit different in size. However, I'm basically just doing this now to see what kind of edge geometry I get and then how hard I have to work on this wood. You'll see it is able to kind of dig in just a little bit more here. I am sliding down the wood just a touch, but I am able to find an edge and get some decent curls. So I don't know, maybe some of this is just my test on this piece of wood not getting really, I don't know, I'm getting curls. So overall, you know, the edge geometry, I believe on the Yeacool knife is just a little bit off, because yeah, now I mean, now that I got this going, let's try this again. Trying to find that edge. It's definitely sliding quite a bit. I just really have to bear down super hard to get a decent bite into the wood and to really find those curls. So unfortunately, the blade is not working great. Now the other aspect of this knife is it has that sort of saw back, so you should be able to use it essentially to create some notches. Not incredibly sharp, however, it definitely does work. It's going to take you a little bit longer. So let's see what I can get in terms of a cut here. So now I have about a 1/4 inch groove in the wood. I'm going to get something else to give it a quick shot, little comparison side by side to see how it performs. So that probably took, I don't know, 30, 45 seconds with this saw to cut this 1/4 inch groove. Now here's the saw from a Swiss Army knife, and overall, just in terms of the overall blade size, somewhat similar. So now I'm going to try to cut myself a groove in here. Takes a little more work to get this started, actually. It has a lot more grab and bite, but now it's getting going. I've never been really great at sawing with these, just from how small it is, but overall, that seems to have taken maybe a little bit less time. But the other thing you'll notice is that the groove is about half the width. So overall, I actually think these performed almost similar. The cutting with the Swiss Army saw is definitely, I'd call it like a sharper cut. This kind of wore into the wood a little bit more, but it definitely performed okay overall. Did not take too much effort and actually gave me a decent groove.